Up From Work podcast. My name's Dave Swillem. Let's get ready to hustle.
Welcome back to the Waking Up From Work podcast. You're listening to episode 85 of the podcast tonight, and excited because we get to be in person downtown Portland, Maine, and it's nice to be out of the house and nice to be out here. We got our masks, we're spaced out, and it's nice to be able to hang and see the people that I'm interviewing for a little bit once in a while. So thank you guys for being on the show. For those of you that have been kind of tuning in, I just moved up here to the Portland, Maine area about a month ago. But a testament to the place that I'm at right here is I've only been here probably 2 or 3 times, I was telling you guys. And it made a big impact on me where like I really do, like my wife and I, we really associate this place with kind of the cityscape. Like in our head, this is a piece of what has to happen when I'm like in town here. This is a piece of the culture for me. So I saw it the other day, and I think that's when I hit you guys up, and thank you guys for playing around with your schedule and everything like that to be on tonight.
Well, thank you, Dave,
You're welcome.
for saying those kind words.
You were doing classes. You were down in Boston or something. They flip-flopped their schedule to accommodate me. So for those that don't know where we're at, don't recognize this place, we're in Vena's Fizz House, downtown Portland, Maine. And this is it's a lot of things. It's like a craft cocktail place. I wouldn't even say a bar because it's like an experience, right? And it is also a brick and mortar mixology store. We've got wholesale going on. We've got classes online because of COVID times that used to be in here. So we've got just a whole realm of really good cocktails, which we are enjoying responsibly right now. For those of you that see me out there, I always have a beer or something, and this is quite a step up from what I usually have. Even with my good fridge stacked up with craft beer, this is a step up. So I'd like to introduce Steve and Johanna of Vena's Fizz House.
Hey,
We're glad to be here. Thank you, Dave.
Glitch in my head.
Yeah.
all good. Yay.
Thank you guys for being on tonight.
Yeah,
you're
this
welcome.
is awesome. Thank you.
So for those that, because we've got definitely a strong New England footprint here growing up in New Hampshire. We've got a lot of New Hampshire listeners, Maine, Vermont, New England in general, Boston. But we've got some really cool people hanging out and listening to us around the country and even around the world, which I'm so thankful for. For those that have not been to Portland, or maybe you just haven't found this place downtown, what is Vena's Fizz House and kind of how did this thing happen here for people that don't know it at all? What do you tell people, your elevator pitch, I guess, and your story?
When we first started Vena's Fizz House, which was 7.5 years ago, we started it as the idea of, it was a non-alcohol bar, which kind of the tagline we used was, it was a modern version of an old-fashioned soda fountain.
Cool.
We weren't going to really do ice cream sodas and things like that, but I had in my mind this vision of a real bar with bartenders mixing up just like you would a cocktail, only they were using seltzer in the end. They were still using all the same ingredients. They were using bitters and phosphates and all the old and fashioned ingredients, because that's what I love.
Sure.
Shrubs, vinegars, things like that, fresh herbs and spices. But at the end, you're still shaking and muddling. You're just adding seltzer at the end of it. And it just kind of came with this germ of an idea. And Steve and I were former school teachers. Steve had been a teacher for almost 20 years. And the whole reason...
Interesting.
Yeah. The whole reason it came to be was the kind of the typical entrepreneurial story, and that we're kind of the accidental entrepreneurs. His job was, cut. 52 teachers were cut. And so
in Portland, Maine.
Wow.
So,
emergency budget crisis. So
going into his 20th year, we're the typical,
You're not even a little bit
I needed one more year to be fully vested.
Oh.
But the thing is, Johanna, on the 5th day of the pink slip woke up groggily because she took it personally that I got a pink slip. And we're going to be in deep duty because we have a mortgage. We had 2 kids in high school.
Sure.
And on the 5th day, she says, mute the TV. I have an idea. And the idea was for a non-alcoholic bar that she talked about. And I said, okay, we're going to go for it. After she said, we're going to have a store attached to the bar that has all the ingredients that people in the cocktail industry will want to use. And we'll use those ingredients in a non-alcoholic setting. She's already said that. So go ahead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
So before this point, you already had this idea, Johanna?
No.
No.
You straight up didn't have that idea ever.
No.
And then like this is going down and you're like, you know what would solve this? If we open up like this exact idea.
Yes.
What?
Literally. And then we literally the next day contacted a real estate person.
Oh my God.
And this was the first space we looked at. And we just said, okay, we'll take it.
And then 2 days later, we sign a lease for the space without knowing anything about anything.
Oh my gosh.
And then
you can't see it because I've got the mask on, but my mouth is open wide. Like
and then I go to my bank that had my mortgage and I said to him, because this happened in April
vacation. And he'd found out, his job will go to the end of the year till June.
Okay.
And so I said, go to the bank before they find out.
How many months is that? How many months do you have?
April, May, June.
You got
couple months.
We have 2 months.
You know it's going to be over in 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's
okay.
Yeah.
So I said, go to the bank before they find out you've lost your job and see if we can get a loan.
How much income do you have? This is my job. I mean, this is my job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
We were lucky. We owned a house, but we'd only had it for 2 years. So we only had 2 years of equity in it. But anyway, we had just enough equity to get enough of a loan to open the doors here.
Yeah. Wow.
And not a penny more.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a scary, scary time.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I had 100% confidence. Don't ask me why. I don't know why, but I had 100% confidence we were going to make this work.
Wow.
You actually on walks with me every night saying, are we absolutely crazy for doing this?
You go
has
for a walk
anyone
and
ever done this?
Oh my God.
Yeah, for every night I heard the same. Are we absolutely nuts? Because no one's ever tried this.
One of the things I did is I'd go online, of course, and I'd try to see if I could find something like it that we could sort of model it after, get some ideas. And I couldn't find anything.
Oh no!
So I thought
is like perfect or awful.
Exactly.
Like, don't know it yet.
I thought either it's the greatest original idea that nobody's done, or it's been done a million times and failed every time.
Sure.
And I didn't know which. So you just do what you have to do. And
wow,
we'd never made drinks before. We didn't know how to make drinks.
You had it. So I was going to ask you guys that. No background in drinks.
None.
No, we're IPA beer drinkers, and we still are IPA beer drinkers. And after 21 months of doing just non-alcoholic drinks, we got our license. We couldn't get our license at the beginning because neither of us had any bartending experience.
Interesting.
Just the conversation, who's going to be the bartender? I trusted my wife. She said, I'm going to be the bartender. I'm going to be the bartender, and she's going to do retail. And that's how we started. And after 2 weeks of making drinks and working with bitters and tasting bitters, I said, oh my God, Johanna, I'm addicted to bitters. She said, thank God.
Eating bitters?
Oh, no, I'm drinking bitter every day. I'm up to like 200 to 500 drops of bitters a day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm a bitter freak. Yeah. Anyhow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Aggressive.
Yeah.
You just found that taste and you're like, I
love bitter.
Well, he's always been like the coffee he drinks is the most bitter black.
Yeah.
So it was a natural. It was
exactly.
You found something that clicked in.
Yeah.
And when I learned about bitters, I was just kind of fascinated by him. And I said to him, this is going to be, bitters are going to be our thing. I was just kind of fascinated by them. And because they're an old ingredient that used to be used all the time, as digestives. And I just thought, I want to bring those back. And so that's that's what I had him do.
And that's what we're known for. I mean, you're drinking a cocktail. Yeah, it's tequila, it's a shrub, but the bitter in that is making the drink taste that way.
Definitely.
That's it in a nutshell.
And just like we said earlier, like you were saying it, we were like, this, if I made it without this, would be too sweet.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But then, like in the palate, when I got hit like halfway through, I don't like sweet. Like that's not my style.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with this because I'm getting the sweet at first, and then like my body's like, hey, you don't like that, remember? But then I get hit with that fast enough that I was like, no, I like this. I do like this. Settle down, body. Don't tell me what to do. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, so that entrance story, I had like a lot of little questions that I had planned to ask you, and that answered a ton of them in a row. Of like, my initial one was, I read online a little bit, and first of all, for those of you out there, kind of when I was like hyping this up, the story itself to say, it's I read some other report that had been done, probably close to the time of open or something, and it was like an article, and the headline was like, craft cocktail place opens without liquor license, or like opening without a liquor license on it. Like that was the point of it, to be like, wait, what? Like, hold on. So I had wondered if it was something where like you had planned to open with the liquor license and something weird, because I have tons of friends that open up different places like that, and all sorts of funky stuff happens with it. I didn't know if something happened where you intended on it, something changed, and then you're like, hey, we're running it this other way, or if you intended to open without the liquor license, then you added it later for a different purpose. So what, because that's crazy that the idea all was in one time. Like what do you think led to it where like that moment clicked and you're like, let's do this exact concept? Was there anything that fed that idea before that time? Any things that had happened in your life that you're like, this is why there's a need for it? Or like that straight up was just like something lucid or something that happened on the fly?
I've thought a lot about it.
Yeah.
And I realized that I think I'd always, it was more about ingredients. I'd always been kind of fascinated with the old-fashioned ingredients.
Why?
I
what
don't
was it?
know. I grew up on an apple farm in Maine.
Okay.
And I just was always loved looking through the old cookbooks. I don't know why. And I started actually a product I started to make at the apple farm was something I saw in an old cookbook. And it was called boiled cider.
Okay.
And I'm like, I live on an apple farm. I've never heard of this. What is this? And it said it used to be as prevalent as maple syrup.
Wow.
Back in the day when everybody had orchards.
Right.
And you just boil it down just like you do maple syrup.
Huh.
And then they would use it just like maple syrup, as a sweetener or, for your beans, for your whatever. And I thought, oh, I'm going to try making that because I've got cider. We're at farm. So I started just boiling. Pretty soon we're having it boiled at the local maple syrup place, boiling tons and tons of it. And
wow.
We started selling it all over. But little did we know, that was our very first drink we ever came up with. We called it the cider smash.
Yeah.
We used equal parts cider syrup, bourbon, and lemon juice. And that was it.
Wow.
And it was delicious. And anyway, that I just always had kind of an interest in those old ingredients. I don't know why, just kind of fascinated by it. And,
interesting.
Yeah. And so, of course, we still have the cider syrup here today.
I was going to ask you that. Is that still around at this point?
Yes, it is. It's still on the menu. We still have that drink. And it's always been one of our most popular drinks.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. It's wild. We're doing it with rye now.
Yeah.
Oh, and with a bitter now.
Yeah. Now it's been fancified, but
awesome.
Yeah.
But that was kind of it. I just had this German of an idea, and I don't know how I got this thing about the seltzer. And I think it too had to do with I like to have a place to go during the day, and I'm not a big coffee drinker. I didn't really want to go to a coffee shop. I didn't really want smoothie. I just thought, why isn't there a place you can get a cold drink and sit down as opposed to coffee or smoothie or something like that? And I just kind of thought, and then putting healthy ingredients in it. I love fresh herbs and spices and muddled up things. So it kind of was just that simple idea like that.
Sure.
And so we just said, well, let's try it. And so when we opened the door, we came up with 10 recipes that we had on the menu. And the funny story too was that just before we opened, we were all ready to open. We have everything, and we call up like the place to come have a seltzer gun, put in.
Sure.
And they said, well, what else? What other soda are you going to have put in? And we said, no, we're not having any soda. We don't
Just
need a
seltzer.
Pepsi. We don't need a 7-Up gun. We just need a seltzer. And they said, no, we can't do that. And I said,
Why not?
you have to buy these other canisters of syrup, or else it's not worth our time, I
You're
guess.
like, I'm going to make syrup.
Right. I said, we're making our own. And I said, okay, I'll buy one canister of Pepsi a month or something, whatever. None of them would do it. So it was
Wow.
like just before we opened and we have nothing to make our Fizz house fizzy.
You have the menu already formed
We
right
have
now.
it, right.
You're like, these are the things I'm going to do. You just don't have a way to make them yet.
Right. We don't
Oh
have
my
we have
God.
cans and bottles of
So
seltzer.
we went and bought
That's it,
cans.
yeah.
We went and bought a bunch,
Okay.
It took 2 weeks to figure out where to buy a
Well, we
gun,
had to go online
a carbonated unit. Yeah.
and get it
we
all
got
hooked up ourselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a little thing we learned.
Yeah.
They won't come just hook you up with CO2.
Yeah.
You have to buy all the other
Wow.
syrups with it.
Yeah. There was an episode I did. It was just on the concept of like, make it a problem first, because it's like you guys didn't worry about the seltzer gun situation. You were like, how am I going to do this business? And then like you ran into it and you're like, I have to solve this now. But it's like not worth worrying about until like you have to solve it almost
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. Like anything, when you first start, we didn't even know it was a problem until
Right.
you don't know.
You're like, I didn't know that was a thing.
Right. Had no idea.
Wasn't in the
No.
seltzer game long enough. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's crazy. So when
Wow.
you first open up, you have this idea of what this is going to be. How does it go like at startup, and then how does it develop? Because I think it was 2 years before you did liquor license, right?
Mhm.
So it's
Almost,
2
you're right.
years of doing the mocktails in this place that people can come to get a cocktail that's not no alcohol, like in the day or whatever. How did like the first 2 years go, and like what did you see? How was it received as that thing where like you're like, I was trying to find this thing, I never found it? Do you then validate, like, obviously we're here, so it is validated,
Mhm.
but how did it go, and how are people perceiving that concept? Because it is like kind of an older concept, but I also, that's probably why being here 3 times, like I love a lot of older concepts.
Mhm.
I'm an old soul, I think. And when I see any place that like it takes in that character in full, I get hit and I'm in right away. Even if you
Yes.
didn't have liquor here, and I love my cocktails,
Mhm.
I would have been in, I would have been by. I don't know if that's where you saw that.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have any intention of adding alcohol when we started. We weren't against adding alcohol. It really was just, we just didn't know enough when we started.
Sure.
And we had this concept of the no alcohol, and I just thought there could be a real market for that. But what was funny, what happened was about 2 years in, we started to find empty nip bottles in our trash.
Ah.
So we started to realize that people were bringing it in anyway
Okay.
and adding it to their mocktails. And so we just said, well, okay, we've been doing it for 2 years. Now we're feeling like we understand flavors
Wow.
and all that. So we thought we'll try it. But we always wanted it to be equal. Because we had a great following for the non-alcohol.
Anyway.
Yes, anyway. And so we didn't want to alienate them. And we just thought the concept where it's totally equal. It doesn't matter if you're drinking or not drinking at all. We don't want people to even know that there's any distinction. If you come in here and get a non-alcohol drink, nobody knows.
Right.
Because what we always heard from the people that drank the non-alcohol was that, they always feel somehow like they're relegated to the kids' table when they go into a bar, or they're somehow less than,
Yep.
and they're almost kind of embarrassed to
I have
order.
lots of straight edge friends.
Yes.
Right.
And I go out. If they're comfortable going out with me, I love to have them,
Yes.
for the night, if they're comfortable with it. And, there's a certain crew of people where like they just don't try and they just go off. And then like there's a certain crew of people that's like, let's make sure that these people are included if we're going to ask them to come and be a part of this night or this time with us. And they unfortunately do get alienated all the time, and it's nothing wrong with not drinking alcohol. You know,
Exactly. Like we really want to just have this concept of a bar. We think it's a whole new concept of just there's no distinction. There's
it's like not
you don't
the
know.
point,
It's not
basically.
even the point at all, because, and that's always been a little bit of a frustration, has been that everybody's always trying to say to us, did you open because of the
regulations?
Regulations, or because you couldn't get a liquor license, or did you open because you're, catering to the recovery community? And it wasn't any of those things.
You're like,
no, it was more, just loving ingredients, loving healthy ingredients.
But after a year, we're seeing that we're losing business not being open at night. People wanted alcohol at night. We were losing money not having events. People, we could do non-alcoholic drinks for any event, but people wanted alcohol. What occurred in November 2014, we're still in the world of alcohol, and we're like 5 months away from getting our alcoholic license. We decided we're going to get our license. Alton Brown came here, and he's Food Network Good Eats guru.
Sure.
He put us on the national map. He put his experience. You use the word experience. It's an experience here.
It is an experience.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, he's an ingredients guy.
And he loves the flavors. And I gave him a non-alcoholic drink with 2 different bitters, and he's asked me all these questions, yada, yada, yada. But anyhow, he put us as one of his top 8 tour stops on his national 2014 tour. And that, with 1 million followers, and that's November. By March, we got our license already, and we opened late March, early April as a mocktail and a cocktail bar. We could both, yeah. And it was the same feel of a bar as a non-alcoholic bar. It was the same thing, except now we're doing both.
Sure.
And it was cool. I love that. Because I had people working for us even said, you can't do the same things. You can't teach like you used to teach. And it's like, no way. Of course, it's going to be the same. And it was the same. And it still is the same. Except now with the pandemic, you're the first person sitting at our bar, Dave, drinking a cocktail, by the way.
How about that? Okay.
Yeah.
You saw it here.
Since March.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Breaking ground here on the
Since
podcast.
March 15th.
Yeah.
It's been a long,
That's a sad thing to think about.
Yeah. Wild.
Wow. So let's talk about that too then, because I've been careful when, for those of you out there that have been listening for a bit now, when the pandemic hit, I did interview people as I go weekly. So I would, along the way, every once in a while, kind of check back into like each different type of business. We've interviewed venues, we've interviewed, obviously restaurants, breweries, and musicians, and everyone's affected differently, some positive, some negative. And I've tried to interview enough to get information that I think is going to help people. Like, hey, what do I possibly do? And they get ideas. And I've tried also not to be so on top of it, to be like, there's also a million other things that are happening still in the world. Let's also talk about other things that are happening too. If you need to listen to an episode to not think that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now it has been some breath in the episodes of not talking about it again. And you guys were talking about some really interesting changes in your business with the times. Even before we were talking, you were talking about the Zoom mixology classes that you were doing here in the bar. Then all of a sudden now did you ever have people that were like in Illinois or in some other places that were part of that community, or now that opened it up to it? How's COVID affecting all of this?
I've been doing classes here during the winter times.
But not Zoom classes.
But not here at the bar. I've been doing classes here in the winter.
Here in the bar.
So we have customers in the summer that wanted to learn about how to make cocktails and how to make bitters, but aren't here in the wintertime because they're summer tourists.
Sure.
So finally now, we have MailChimp, we have followers, so they know what's going on. Now I'm teaching them how to create cocktails, how to create mocktails, how to make bitters while I'm a one-man show on a screen on Zoom. I didn't know what Zoom was before the pandemic.
Yeah.
I've done 2 Zoom classes already this week, and it's Wednesday. Yeah, it's pretty wild. But anyone that wants to learn how to create mocktails, cocktails, go to www.venasfizzhouse.com.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we did
That's so cool.
Yeah. It's fun.
In-house
It's fun.
classes, where people could sign up
Yeah.
weekly, and we'd have filled this up with people taking cocktail classes
Beforehand.
Right here.
Beforehand. Up to 15 people in the bar. And we charge them
Awesome.
$75. Yeah.
And so, but we didn't know about Zoom.
Right,
That's how the pandemic's changed. It's like, went from you had to be local to now it's.
It like blew up
It
the
blew
world
up.
of like what you understand, like how you can communicate with people and interact with them.
Yeah.
Even with your shop in downtown Portland, that you could affect someone to make
That's right.
different drinks in Illinois. You're just like, this is crazy. And how did I, like, because I've been doing the same things with audio where like there have been people in, I don't know, some of the people in like Virginia, people in LA or something. I've been working with people and I would be doing remote sessions. And I was like, this technology has been here for like 6 years. Why did I think that wasn't a thing? And it's just like, it just forced it to, and the world got huge and close at the same time.
That's
It's
right.
really
Yes,
weird.
It is. It's been the
Yeah.
strangest 6 months.
Yeah.
Like we said, it's such an up and down. I mean, there are definite silver linings for our business.
Sure.
It's been devastating on one hand and totally opened up other ends of it.
Because you were saying
opportunities.
beforehand that for those of you, and I didn't know this really until you had told me beforehand, is that you do obviously the bar and the brick and mortar store here. And then it makes total sense when Steve said this earlier, but you have this other facility that does the exclusive products that you do as the ingredients that you do to fill up this brick and mortar and to do other things. You said you saw a flip. Obviously, people are not here in this bar. I'm cool enough, I guess, to be the first person to break this drink back in here again. That's going to get edited out somehow.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Lame. It's going to be lame in there. But you guys, it flipped a little bit. You said that now you have a lot of distribution and wholesaling and stuff. Like what? The other day you were saying that you were down in Boston and stuff. And I was like, I had no idea that they were up to all these things out of this shop that I'd only been to 3 times. But that's really cool to see that impact, and share that.
Yeah, we found probably about 3 years ago, one of the things I noticed down in the retail shop were, because we get so many tourists that come from all over the country here, everybody was wanting things they could take on the plane with them.
Interesting.
Yeah, and because a lot of what we sell are liquids, we do syrups and shrubs and bitters, and they couldn't take a lot of that on the plane. And so that's kind of how the idea for the spirit sippers, the infusion jars came up. To try to
get this through TSA.
Yes, get it through
TSA. Hang out on your plane back to wherever you're going.
Exactly.
Let's try.
Yeah.
Unreal.
And that's how it began. And now it's literally become a second whole business in this business. And thank goodness, because that's what's been able to keep us going.
Unbelievable.
Totally. We make it in we have a whole production facility where we make it all. And thank goodness. Yeah. Because we've just taken all the energy that we were putting into here and moved it over there and have just ramped it up.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
There were 7 people working today, us included. Yeah.
That's awesome.
7. Yeah.
Cranking it out.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 or 2 people work here now in the brick and mortar.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, that's
flipped,
it. Totally. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're very, now we make a whole line of bitters, and we make bitters infused sugar cubes. We sell them all over the country.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's the stuff where and this is why, honestly, I do the podcast like this, is because you could just so easily walk down the street and not know that this web of impact and effects is happening from this little, you would perceive it as a small little space, that it could only be that thing. And it's just not that thing. It's an experience. And it's also, what are we doing to make an impact? And it's doing a lot of impact. And now, especially COVID times, all over the place. It's crazy to think that, and people just don't know that until you talk to people, or you just find stuff in the shop and ask questions or whatever,
Yep.
That's really crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is crazy. Yeah. And, I think it's probably a testament to Yankee ingenuity and frugality, and that
And stubbornness.
It's stubbornness.
Probably a little bit.
I'm an 11th generation Vena, so I just,
Yeah.
I don't ever like the idea of having all my eggs in one basket,
Sure.
So when we started this, we have to have something else in case something happens to this. And so it worked. We were lucky. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess let me, you were saying this, Steve, because there was something before that you noted before. Was it before this time you said something, but Steve was talking about you're like, hey, like this happened because you take two people that are both like fine with a certain amount of risk, and whether you're going to be an entrepreneur or not, like a lot of it is kind of focused into with like how comfortable are you being uncomfortable, really? And you're like, you take two people that were both fine with risk and you put them together, and then you do crazy stuff like that where you're like, hey, we're going to just do this thing. What were you saying? Like what made you think that? And what was this other thing that you were talking about, Cliffside, that I didn't know anything about that before this?
There's a high level of trust between us. We were looking to leave Maine we didn't know how long. We're going to leave the state. We're going to take our two kids. Johanna goes on a trip, goes to Savannah, Georgia, to check out the society.
I was
we
from
needed a
here.
break.
We'd always been here and wanted to try a different society.
11th generation Mainer.
We went to Asheville, North Carolina.
Awesome place.
And,
so cool.
and again, but the McMansions turned her off. So she goes, I said, check out this little Finger Lake projection out of Delaware. It's Virginia. Just see what's there. And I never saw it, but sight unseen, I said, go ahead, buy the house. She found a house and she bought a house. I never went down there. I went down there during April vacation to try to find a teaching job, and I got a job. And we moved, and I checked out the house when I was down there. I said, great, we own a house.
Good job with that.
Cool.
Good choice.
Trust. Okay. 2 years later, she comes back to Maine, and I'm working at Kelly's Ginger Nut Pub in Cape Charles, Virginia, as a bartender, as a waiter.
I came back because it was my parents' 50th wedding anniversary.
Okay, and this is all before, obviously, this place.
That's right.
All this is before.
This wasn't even a song.
And she brings the two grandkids to spend time with the grandparents, and they're out on Cliff Island, 2 miles out to sea. Here at Casca Bay.
Okay.
And she calls me up on a Tuesday. She said, "Steve, you know the storekeeper on the island?" I said, "Oh, that asshole." Oh, can I swear? I'm
yes,
sorry.
You can.
Okay.
Yeah.
She said,
"You guys are way more tame than me usually."
The store is for sale. Oh, I just swore. The store's for sale, and it's $5,000. I said, "You're kidding. Just buy it." That's a story in itself. I mean, that's trust.
Oh my God.
That's taking a risk, and that's trust.
Just buy the house.
So it's
buy the store.
It's 2008, and the market stinks all over America, the real estate market. And we sold our house in Cape Charles to a next door church that wanted to expand, and it closed, hallelujah, in early December. Hallelujah. Because anyhow, that's trust.
Wow.
So when she comes up, you're asking Johanna half an hour ago, where did the idea come from? When I got my pink slip, she did not sleep 4 nights in a row, minimally. So when she woke up groggily with this idea, it was like without sleep for many nights in a row. She has this idea, and she's a genius. I married a genius. I say over and over and over again, my wife is a genius. I'm so lucky.
You've created a lot out of nothing.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we work well together. It's the typical what I'm good at, he's not, and what he's good at, I'm not. So it works really well.
That's hard, though.
Yeah.
That's special to find.
Yeah. So it somehow works. It somehow works.
So you guys bought the store on an island.
I always say it's a risk, but at the same time, I said to him, it's $5,000. It isn't like, we're going to
this won't end us.
It's not going to end us. And I said, and if we hate it after a year, well, we're out $5,000, but we get to spend a year on an island off the coast of Maine, which we would never get to do normally.
Sounds cool.
And our daughter got to spend 5th grade at the school on the island for this really cool experience. Anyhow, we bought a house, not on Cliff Island, but in Portland from the proceeds of the store.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, no. So we ended up staying for 6 years, and that until he lost the job, and then this came about, and then we couldn't do the 2 anymore. So we gave up the Cliff Island and just kept doing this.
Wow.
Yeah, but doing both of these, Cliff Island and here, it was too much for me.
I bet.
Yeah, thank God we gave it up.
It's like, that's a lot anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But then also to put in the fact of like just literally it's on an island. It's just hard for you to see what's going on. You can't just bop down 4th Street. Like you have to go to now an island to see what's happening. If there's any sense of urgency that you have, you literally have to find a way to get to the island. And that's time and
and the ferry to get to Cliff Island, it's a 2-hour ferry drive. It's it's a long haul.
It's time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're
we did it for 2 years. The last year, our 2 kids ran the island store for us. They were 18 and 16. They ran it because they helped us run it for 4 years.
What a good education for them.
Oh, yeah. Very, exactly.
Wow. Are they doing anything where they're getting involved in things like that, or what are they up to?
Well, they actually kind of are. Our daughter is in Seattle now. Same kind of thing. I think she has our
entrepreneurial
she just decided to take off.
They got the blood.
Plunked herself out there and has kind of created a life, and then is running a little store.
She's the general manager at a family-run grocery store, which is way cool. Yeah. She's 22.
That's unbelievable.
And she's running the ship.
Yeah.
I think that education is priceless.
Yeah.
We do too.
Absolutely
we both feel that way.
Priceless.
And we're both teachers. We're teachers,
Yeah.
and I said that type of to teach a kid. I agree. I think it's invaluable.
100%.
Yeah.
There's like, and definitely like as 2 educators, there are educators that because of the people that they made an impact on me that was way more than the material that they led because of the way that they understood who I was. They understood what I was looking for and thinking more than I ever imagined that they did. And they were able to give me the things that I needed to have at the time that I needed it to make an impact.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't definitely say where, like, when I was in college, I tell people this all the time. Like, when people ask, like, hey, how do I go into audio or something? If they're, like, in that creative field like that, I was in college for audio. And I always tell people, like, you can go to college for audio and it can mean nothing to you, or you can go to college to audio and it can mean everything to you. But it matters who you are. And there are certain people that need certain experiences to get them. And for me to work with people, I'm someone that, like, I need to see what's happening and I need to interact with people and analyze why are you making these choices as it's happening. And then it clicks for me. So I need to, for anyone, I think, to run a business at that age is something that no one really gets to do. And that's, that is something that you just you can't buy that in the school. You can't go to school and do that thing. And that's pretty cool to have as an experience.
Yeah. That's what we thought too. We just thought that teach the kids what, like you said, just the work, all the details of what goes into running a store, and then to have the trust them to do it, to build, what that's the best self-esteem you can kind of give your kid.
I bet
that they can do it and they have to solve problems, and they did.
Yeah. You have to.
They have to. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it was
That's
pretty
very
wild.
cool.
Yeah.
It was a wild 6 years. Yeah. But this has been a wild 7 years. Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So I think, let me see. Yeah, I've got a little bit more time, and then I have like 5 questions I ask people at the end for every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say out there to people where maybe they don't have like the idea like that you had that clicked like that? What would you say to people out there that want to get into modern mixology, or they want to get into this type of craft that this is? I don't think that, like there are certain bars that you go to that might not be what this is, right? But there are certain bars that they really do put value, and they're putting amazing things into the drinks that I feel you can learn that. But there's also such a majority of bars that I feel like are using this really easy, this really junk stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff where you're just not going to learn it by being in there. What would you say to someone if they want to get into anything that's in this realm, or even the home enthusiasts that you are working with? What do you say to people that are getting into this craft?
Well, what's been interesting with us is that we actually, most of the people we end up hiring to be bartenders have not been bartenders before. It's people that just have had an interest, kind of just like us.
Yeah.
In these in ingredients, or it's like maybe they're culinary people, and they're just interested in flavors. So for us, that's who we're always looking for, and those are the people that seem to do the best here because they have a curiosity about it.
Right.
They're not. We sometimes find that a trained bartender is kind of entrenched, and not all of them by any chance.
This is the way that we do it.
Right.
This is the way that this drink is made.
Right.
We have to put this amount. This has to be this thing.
Right.
Yep.
And not that isn't making a great drink.
Sure.
But it's not the type of drink we make. And we might make them differently because we didn't come from the industry. We didn't learn that way. So we kind of created our own way to make drinks.
Right.
Whether that was the right way or the wrong way, we don't know. But it's how we just did it ourselves.
Exactly.
So we sometimes it's easier to train somebody just that has the passion for it than to sometimes retrain break habits. So we just say, if you have an interest in flavors, it's like start to go crazy, man. You can just do it with simple things at your house. You can do it with, you have some seltzer and citrus, and we say a little bit of sweet, those sweet citrus and seltzer. Just start with those three basic things and try it. The sweet can be maple, it could be agave, it could be simple syrup,
Right.
Start to branch out. Of course, then we say, but the cream of the crop is the bitter.
With a quality bitter.
With a good quality, one good quality bitter to start, and start to test it that way. You can do it as simple as those ingredients.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's like a lot of parallels with what you said where I always compare, it's just because of my background. I always compare everything that when I'm asking people about a world that I might not be fluent in. I always compare it and parallel back to music, and it's like what Steve was saying with like the way things can be done and the ways that things cannot be done. It's like I took music theory, but I don't use music theory to write a song. It's there are sometimes I like use it to like check under the hood to be like, why is this thing happening? Why do I not like this thing? And then I'll like try to analyze it and be like, oh, that's why I hate this thing because it's causing this thing. But like, you don't need the music theory to write amazing music or be an amazing artist. You just don't need that. And but you could be an amazing artist and know music theory.
Exactly.
It's crazy like that.
Yes.
And, but it's almost like it's helpful sometimes to know the rules so you can break them, but it's also nice when you don't know the rules so you don't know what could limit you in the same way.
And I think that's exactly right, how we started it. But we learned, then we learned a lot of the, why does sour? How do you make sour?
Why does this
why
do
does
that
this
thing?
do that? Why
do people feel that way when they have this thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what's this alcohol do with this bitter? We learned all this, but we didn't have any preconceived notions going in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
3 weeks in to this business, Johanna said, it's really too bad you're losing all your 19 years of experience as a teacher.
Huh.
And I didn't react. About a half hour later, I said, Johanna, I'm using everything that I've learned in the 19 years in doing what I'm doing right now. Yeah. And I wasn't teaching people about bitters. I wasn't teaching Zoom. I was just creating mocktails.
Yeah.
And then teaching people what I'm doing here, using logic, proportions, everything. And then talking to customers and teaching them now and teaching whoever I do.
Yeah.
It's all about, for me, it's all about the bitters. The bitters are the seasoning. I am a high-end chef behind the bar using bitters. That's it in a nutshell. Yeah, that's it. And I have over 200 bitters that I play around with in there. Oh my gods. Yeah.
Well, and then the
That's
other
crazy.
little
Yeah, it is.
factor,
It's
200 bitters.
Over.
200 bitters.
Over. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And
And they're all for sale. Also. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get in the fact too that of course we love everything like you were kind of saying it that's vintage and old,
Just
and
love
so
it.
that just speaks to me. And we we just emphasize that in everything we do with what we sell and how we serve the drinks, from the glassware to the ingredients.
Yes.
And we just want people to come in and feel they can relax, they can let their breath out, and things will remind them of a time in their life that, a gone by time.
Yes.
And so that's a big part of what we do.
I mean, look at the glass that you're drinking out of it. That's vintage. And that someone's grandmother probably drank from that glass.
I love that.
And but that's the impermanence of life. Everything breaks. That will break. That will chip. And it's okay. Because it happens. But
that's crazy.
We only have one shot at life. Use a quality bitter. Use a great glass that feels or looks great in the hand, and all the ingredients that you're putting in are really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not hard.
That should be on a t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, only live once.
Do you guys have t-shirts?
No, but we
I'm not even kidding you.
No,
I feel like there's a crew of people out there that heard what you said. Definitely let me know if you thought that. But like what Steve said, they would feel like, what did you just say? There's like everything's good in life except for like as long as you have a bitter in it or something.
Use a quality bitter. Yeah.
That literally could be like the slogan on the front, right?
We call him the bitterest man in the world. He has his own logo, his own cards.
Oh, man.
Bitterest man in the
I
world.
just picture Steve like in a restaurant or a shop or somewhere like that, and he's like that guy that's always had Tabasco his whole life, and like everything has Tabasco. Even if you didn't think it, you're like, eggnog? Yep, Tabasco, yeah. And there's like some scrambled eggs or something, and he's just like,
yeah.
And you're like, what'd you just throw in that? Bitters? And you're like, what's up? I'm like, bitters? And you're
we
like,
go to other bars
enough.
and he'll bring bitters in his pocket, and I'll say, don't you bring those out when we're in the bar.
Oh my Lord.
I'll say, don't let the bartender
It's like Kramer with real maple syrup.
Right.
That's how I,
Totally.
I carry bitters with me.
I can't even imagine if I was a bartender and I see you and you're like, good. Like we're cool. Like, just like that. Just like the bitters. He's chucking them in there. You're like, what?
Cool.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Fun.
All right. You guys ready to have my 5 questions?
Yes.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, cool. They're not, I feel like I build them up to be more epic than they are, but it's just because it's like the same. That's the only thing that definitely always holds true on this podcast. I always ask those questions, but they're not that intense.
Okay.
So the first one, and I always preface it like this, so sorry people who've been listening a long time, I know I say it every time, but it takes explanation, is the first one, I kind of get the answer whenever I do this whole podcast by the end, but I like asking it pointed because sometimes I get a little bit different answer. And that's why is this the thing that you need to do every day instead of any other thing that you could wake up and do on the planet? Why is this the thing?
Wow. I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing. I know it sounds so cliche, but I love getting up in the morning and going to work. And I love coming up with the ideas. I just love the whole process. I love the people I work with. I just can't even think of anything else.
That's awesome.
That I'd rather do.
This is called the Waking Up From Work podcast.
Yeah.
And what I tell people with that all the time is it's not a podcast about being like a lazy millennial. It's like,
Right.
I'm not complaining about working. I'll put in on a weekend, I'll put in 15-hour days. I'll do 7 days a week. I'll work every Sunday for years. I've been doing I work, but I want to work to do the things that I love, that I feel are helping people in the thing that I have a superpower in, or I want to do something. I can put the 15 hours in if it's a process that I enjoy, that's making an impact that I want to make. It's not about the work thing. So like you're waking up to go work and do things, like you got to do things to do all this. This all takes coal in the fire, but just to have that ability to feel that, and that's like all said in one spot, you know?
Yeah. It's undescribable. It's indescribable. It's like when you can't not do it. It's such a part of
you wake up and you're like, what else would I do?
right. And I don't want to do anything. I'm never bored. I'm never, you wish each day could go longer because you have so many ideas that you want to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We only say the only issue is sometimes we wish we'd come up with this idea when we were a little younger,
But the thing, if this happened 20 years ago, bitters were not a thing then. There were like 4 bitter companies in the world at that point.
Okay.
But for me, I'm happy in my world of botanicals, just smells. And I make bitters, and I'm making massive amounts of bitters, batches for Johanna's bitter infused sugar cubes now almost every day. So the smells, the flavors, the tastes, I'm in heaven. It's like a laboratory. I'm in a mill in Westbrook.
It has to be.
And I have my own room, like I said, so the smells are unbelievable, just everything I'm using. And I probably have, 50 to 70 different tinctures.
Wow.
Brewing all over.
They're all over the place.
That's straight up is a lab.
Oh, yeah.
That's not That's a whole lab.
Yeah. So I'm now almost every day making these itty bitters for the Zoom classes, 10 milliliter bottles and I have 11 different bitters, and it's pretty wild because we're selling a lot of them because $5 for a quality bitter.
Yeah. I do it.
Yeah.
Really quick, I have 4 more questions than I always do, but you made me think of something for me and for people out there. How do you make a bitter? Without the crazy science, but what is that even made of?
They're extracts. So they're extracts of botanicals in alcohol.
Okay.
And it could be any roots, barks, petals, fruits, peels. And you need a bittering agent, a bittering root like gentian, horehound, wormwood, dandelion leaf, dandelion root, burdock root, wormwood. One of those needs to be one of the botanicals to make it a true bitter.
Interesting.
Bitters were America's medicines in the 1800s.
Right.
For digestion, intestinal fortitude, health. There were no pharmacies in the 1800s. They started in 1905. Therefore, people used bitters and tonics, and that's a bitter in itself from Chiconabach. Anyhow, I answer your question in a minute.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. People take classes to learn about all this stuff. Yeah.
There's a lot to learn.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So on the other questions I have, these are 2 that go together, is along the way, say that you could take the lesson and give it to someone, so that they just immediately learned it. What's the biggest mistake that you've made along the way through all this, where you're like, hey, you could even say I'm happy I learned the lesson from it, but if you have the ability to learn this lesson, don't do this thing. What would you say to people? Don't do that.
Because we didn't know what we were doing kind of at the beginning, or didn't have the background knowledge, that I sometimes, would question what we were doing and listen to other people. And then I've just found that my gut was always right. It was always the best for the business. So I wish I had trusted my gut more. Not that you can go totally by your gut. It's good to listen to other people and always be open to other ideas.
Yep.
But I knew what I wanted. And it wasn't necessarily what everybody else told me we should do.
Right.
Everybody said we were crazy to start a non-alcohol bar.
Right.
People still come up to us today and say, we can't believe you guys are still here. We never thought you'd make it.
Yeah.
And
they're not always doing it maliciously. So it's straight up. Sometimes they just straight up don't see the same lens that you see of what something could happen. They just don't understand, and everything that they've learned in their life tells them that that's not a possible thing. But you might have accumulated those specific things that made you think and feel that that's supposed to happen, that they might just not know.
Trust your gut. There's a reason you get little red flags and things like that. A lot of it was trust your gut and surround yourself, again, kind of the cliche, but with people, good people around you that you trust
Good advice.
and that know more than you do about certain things. We don't know everything at all, and find those people that know more than you do
Sure.
about the things you're not good at.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with all of Johanna's sentiments. Mine is right to the bullet. If you are a small business owner and you hire one employee, get yourself an HR firm, human resources. There are so many regulations you need to know.
Wow.
You
Okay.
need to know.
Yeah.
If we had that advice, it would have solved a lot of issues. We have HR now. We have minimal issues.
Okay. That's something that's never been said on this podcast. And I feel like that would prevent people from a lot of headaches that they just wouldn't know.
Oh,
And
And it's just
Wouldn't
that
know.
because entrepreneurs, you go into it because it's something you're interested in.
That's right.
We didn't have any idea of how to manage people or what,
Yeah.
So
Sure.
now we have HR help us with everything.
And we are happy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very practical advice.
Cool. Flip side to that, more positive note. That was all good information. That's why I ask it. Flip side to that, what's the best idea you've ever had along the way? You're like, I can't believe we had that idea at that time, or we did that thing at that time that was just right all the way through.
This, again, not to sound, I think everything we did, I always say this, I said the timing of the whole thing, when we started it, what it was right on the mark. The first time in our life, just starting a craft cocktail bar when we did it was just when it was starting, we were kind of ahead of the curve. And so when it did hit, we were already prepared for it. I just feel like we were sort of ahead of the curve on a lot of these with the mocktails, the non-drinking, the low alcohol drinks. We've already been doing that, and now they're coming into trends.
Sure.
But probably starting our own product line. I think that in the classes, it just gave us a whole other, opened up a whole
that
new
becomes
world.
so much more than
Yeah.
just like a singular spot that people can get drinks at. Now it's way more than that.
It's just, opened up a whole world.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'll just add on to what you just said. On day 12 of the pink slip, I come home from school and Johanna said to me, I found out what's going to make us unique to every bar in the world. And I said, what's that? And she said, it's the bitters. And I said, well, cool. What's a bitter? And she told me what she learned that day. And she said, you're going to be the bartender and you're going to learn about bitters and you're going to be the bitterest man in the world and yada, yada, yada. So, no, but the thing is, starting as a non-alcoholic bar forced Johanna to really focus on creating drinks that no one else could do because there weren't any non-alcoholic bars out there.
Right.
Using a spirit with a gun.
Not a spirit.
A spirit with a gun. Yeah. Alcohol in any bar does not make you a mixologist. But using herbs, spices, shrubs, bitters, seltzer, it's like, and then creating. So after 21 months, I was experienced and ready. I really wanted it after a year. She said, no, you're not ready. Yeah. And whether she's right or wrong, we just waited it out and we got our license and here we are.
It's such a good point because I think about like when you were saying that, like, it doesn't make you a mixologist if you're doing this thing just because of this, right? I would go somewhere just to get a drink if I was in a certain spot where I was just like, you know what, I want a drink right now. The drink is why I need to find a place.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just find a place, even if it was like kind of a crappy place, to be honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could be a crappy drink sometimes, which I try to avoid, but like sometimes that's just fine. But I wouldn't go look for that place again, right? That's not the why behind why I went there. Two things about what you just said, Steve, is like, A, it forced me to be creative because now I don't have this thing that like someone's going to come in and get a drink no matter what. like they're going to, even one night we were here, I just saw a crew come in. Like I was here with my wife and I saw a crew come in and I was like, I feel like they are at the end of their night because they just like came in and they're just like ready to like crush it or something like that. But like if you make an alcoholic drink, there are people that will come just because there's alcohol. Right. But if you force yourself to be creative because there wasn't any initially, first of all, you put a constraint on yourself and it's not a limiting constraint of one constraint. It's a constraint that makes you have to solve things and do things and tinker and come up with ideas. And so, first of all, you make yourself creative because now you have a constraint, but you have this openness of like, how do I make this thing despite that one thing? Second, you have to make it so that this place matters to people as a place to go to, and you don't have the alcohol to lean on. It's not, people are not going to come here because they're coming for the alcohol randomly. They have to come here because they just enjoy this experience, enjoy this thing. And then they want to keep coming to that thing. And that has to make you creativity, like the product, like everything has to be phenomenal to create that. So
it is. That's exactly, I think, why we've managed to be successful is that people come because they get a certain feeling when they come in here. I think a feeling of we really want to make it that you're getting a high-end drink. Yeah. But not any pretension with it at all. It's like the most comfortable place to come into where you are. Totally. You can totally talk to the bartenders and say, I don't know what a bitter is. I don't know what this is. Can you explain it to me? And they will explain it to you. And the educational piece. Yes. Right? Yes. We want you to ask. We want you to, we give out all our recipes. They're not secret. We want you to be able to make it at home and text us and ask us, how did you do that? That's what we love. Very cool.
We take pride in what we do on a daily basis.
I can tell.
That's it.
I can tell from being with you for an hour. Yeah. Yep. And that's what makes, being passionate about what you do, that's got to be half the battle there or more,
We're lucky. Yep. We're lucky.
Yeah. Luck and hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, both.
Right. A little bit of both. Yeah, a lot of both. Yeah. What would be one resource that you'd recommend to people out there? It can be about literally anything. It can be business, mixology, can be mindset, can be life. Like what's a resource? Could be a book, video, podcast, any form of anything that you'd recommend our listeners should go check out, something that is valuable to you.
Besides our website, there's a book on the history of bitters by Parsons. It's my Bible. Okay. I've read it twice. So anyone that wants to know about bitters, how to make bitters, what is a bitter, we have it here at the store. And we'll have it online also soon for sale. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And there's a book, I always forget the name. Is it called The Flavor Bible?
Yeah.
That is such a great book. If for people that love ingredients, The Flavor Bible, that's one of my go-to books all the time when I'm looking to come up with new ideas and what goes with what. But also, I would just say get involved in all the different, we've done everything from, the Small Business Association to we've been in every kind of program that's out there to help small businesses. There's so many great local resources that are free. I don't know if I could pick just one. We've done so many. Taking leadership classes right now. We're really trying to learn everything that we possibly can, especially in the areas that we're, not as great on. I would say go to your local. I'm trying to think of here.
I just got connected with the SBDC. Yes. I just got connected with them here and have spoken with them in the past, but there are people that you don't know until you're looking for it. But when you find there are people that want to help and they get really pumped up and passionate about it and they want to help you do it.
Yes.
You're not in it alone. If you're trying to do these crazy ideas, but you feel it in your gut that it's going to work. Mm-hmm. Right. There are people out there that you can bounce stuff off that are not shut to listen to what you have to say on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be hard to pick one, but there's a lot out there locally. Especially we live in a great state for entrepreneurs, I believe. There's so much information and people wanting to help you out there.
I forget what the statistic was that I had seen the other day, but it's something like 65% of Maine jobs are given from small businesses. It's something insane like that. And I was like, there are not a lot of states that can say that. That's
I don't
substantial.
think so.
Yeah.
Like I said, in Maine,
Cool.
you have to be.
I love that.
You have to be, resourceful in Maine to make a living here. I think.
Yeah.
And so I think people do. They come up with a lot of great ideas to, keep themselves going.
It's funny because we lived in Tennessee for a little bit. Like mostly my wife was living there. And we kind of did the same thing too, where we bought a house, like we toured 12 houses. Then we picked one of them on an airplane of like, we're doing that's the house. And we renovated it in a month and then Meg was there. But this place is in Tennessee in the middle of nowhere to the point where I consider that I grew up fairly rural in New Hampshire. This is an experience for me that totally, one of those opening things where like I was on the highway and I was like, what is this thing going so slow? This happened to me 3 times where I was like, what is this thing going so slow? One was a ATV towing a boat. One was 2 people on Cub Cadets, and they were driving on the highway down. And then I was behind them because I didn't want to pass them fast. And they went into the church parking lot, and there was parking where there were other Cub Cadets and ATV. And I was like, wow, we're out here. We're out here. But the thing that I got from those people, and I feel it in Maine too, is it was way even extra there. There's straight up no work there. There's 0 work. That's not the case in Maine, but there was 0 things to do. But those people are there and they're making money and they get up every day and they go figure something out. They go fix something because they can't afford it, or they go make money because they have to, and they go figure things out and they create things that you would take for granted or say that you could never do or something. They do it every day. All these people, they don't even in this town have the greatest education system. They're creating businesses. They're creating everything every day. And it's amazing to watch them do that with, you'd think you didn't have the resources or something. They'll make whatever it is work. And they like all of a sudden it like works perfect. And I see that in Maine. And I see the spirit of it here too, I'd say. Yeah.
Definitely.
Last one's the easiest question. The easiest is just, where do people find you? If people want to check out websites or social or come to your place here, where do people check out Vena's Fizz House if they want to see what's going on? They want to be a part of these classes or products or anything?
Definitely to products and classes, go to our website. It's www.venasfizzhouse.com. Our address here is 345 4th Street, Portland, Maine.
Right by the cobblestone.
Yep, right at the corner of 4 and Silver. And Instagram.
Vena's Fizz.
Vena's Fizz.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and our website has everything. You can just click on classes and everything pops up, tells you everything you need to know. You can sign up right there.
Online stores right there.
Yeah, online store.
Our product line is right there.
You can order wholesale right on our online store.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Made it very easy.
So for those of you out there, if you're driving or riding a bike or walking a dog or something, www.wakingupfromwork.com/show notes. And these guys will have their own spot on that show notes section. Or if you're listening on something mobile, at the bottom, there will be a link to everything that they just said. So you can just click on it so you don't have to write anything down or anything. But
cool.
Thank you guys for having me in here. Thank you for letting me christen this place with a drink again.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Dave, for having us. Yeah.
Fun.
Thank you for reaching out to us.
Yeah.
This was fun.
It's got to be weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not. I've been on some other podcasts as a podcaster, but I'm not always reached out to that way. And I always wonder, what do people think when I first hit them up? Because everyone has different experience of if they've even listened to podcasts,
right? I listen to podcasts all the time. I of course thought, is this for real? Does he really want to do us? Right? What is this? But yeah, I looked you up and I saw.
All of a sudden, a money transfer thing comes up.
Right. You're a Nigerian prince, right?
God.
Yeah.
All right.